Hello class, my name is Samuel Terry. This is ISA 4220, and today I'm going to be talking about AppArmor and HTTPS and their hardening techniques. So first for AppArmor, it is a mandatory access control that restricts programs to a limited set of resources. Think of it as basically a limiter on objects within the system. AppArmor is a Linux kernel enhancement. Basically, all that means is that it's on the Linux operating system. AppArmor profiles can be split up into two modes. You have your enforcement mode and your complaint mode. So you want to make sure that when using these modes, you understand both of these profiles. You understand that your profiles and which would be best for your specific profile. So enforcement mode enforces the policies defined in the policy and the profile and reports policy violation attempts. And for complaint, it only reports policy violation attempts. So in terms of hardening, the first major step in hardening AppArmor is to make sure it's enabled on your desktop and servers. Basically, it can't work if you don't, enable it, if you don't give it access. Make sure your policy profiles are defined and concise to your specific server. In terms of a user and an operating system, everything is different, every user is different, so you want to make sure that's specific for you and your operating system. Decide which mode you want to use for profiles. Choose between enforcement and complaint mode. Can alter the user experience of the operating system. And make sure that AppArmor is running properly on any service or application you are trying to use. So for HTTPS, HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. It is basically a more secure version of HTTP. So HTTP basically allows it basically is for any web server. It doesn't protect anything. You mostly see HTTP on web servers where it's not really housing any important information. Whereas in HTTPS, you see this mostly on web services that have more important and sensitive information. So what makes HTTPS more secure is the fact that it's encrypted when sending data. So you see HTTPS when using web services of high importance, such as bank accounts, email services, health insurance providers, etc. The protocol used to encrypt the data is the Transport Layer Security, TLS. TLS uses two different types of keys to encrypt communication between parties. You have private keys and public keys. So for private keys, it is solely controlled by the owner of the website. It is used to decrypt information. Encrypted by the public key. And for the public key is available to everybody who uses the server. Information encrypted by a public key can only be decrypted by the private key. So for IIS, it is the Internet Information Services. It stands for the Internet Information Services. It is a web server that is used to run all HTML page and file requests. It was created by Microsoft and it is used on Windows operating systems. So with IIS, users can share information across local area networks and wide area networks. Users can set up different languages and protocols on an IIS web server. Users can set up a secure channel with HTTPS on an IIS. So steps to harden IIS is Windows updates. Microsoft provides regular updates to make sure every user is using the best version of the web server. This is the first and most essential step in hardening your IIS server. Disable unnecessary services. Reduce the possibility of hacks by disabling any potential harmless or useless services. Basically, if it is not being used, remove or disable it. Think of it as not leaving any open backdoors to your server. Some services that you can disable is the FTP service, SMTP services, indexing service, net meeting remote desktop sharing, and internet connection sharing, Win2K server terminal services, remote registry, Telnet, and FTP can all be disabled. Firewalls, setting up a firewall will block unnecessary packets from coming to your server. Firewalls are often the first line of defense when protecting servers against attacks. Address restriction, defining which IP address are allowed or blocked from accessing your server. URL authorization forces users to identify themselves in order to be authorized to access URLs. MIME prevents unauthorized downloads of important data files by hiding these files within the IIS, and documenting and reporting. Keep track of user logs to monitor potential malicious events. So Apache is a widely used multi-platform web server. Apache allows web servers to accept, deny, and send information to other web servers. When setting up a web server, configuring HTTPS allows the user to provide security to the server. So steps to harden Apache: remove server version banner, prevent the unnecessary exposure of your Apache server version, disable directory browser listing, blocks access of all users to see what files and folders are under root or subdirectory, disable eTag, disabling the use of the eTag header for obtaining information. Attackers like to use this method to acquire important data. Directory configuration permission. Disable the access of any user to view and edit configuration settings. When Apache is first installed, any user can override the configuration settings to make changes. Disable trace HTTP requests. When Apache is first installed, a method to trace information is enabled. By disabling this, you prevent attackers from stealing cookie information. And once again, documenting and reporting. Keep track of user logs to monitor potential malicious events. So within Apache, they have two types of logs: the debug log and the audit log. The debug log duplicates all errors, warnings, and notices. The audit log logs transactions that do not follow the policies that are put in place. And this is my works cited page. Thank you for listening to my presentation.